Welcome to the Burgundy and Gold Knuckleheads podcast. As always, even when the season's over, you know who's right there with me, my main man Reggie. What's going on, Reg?
When the season's
even when the season's over, you're still with me, hanging out. I had to pull you to the finish line this year.
No, you did not.
I had to pull you to the finish line. You were on the wagon, but you were falling off, and I grabbed you by your ankle and like, no, Reg, stay on the wagon.
Who are you, man? You come on with this mess for the second week in a row. You didn't have to pull me to the finish line.
I pulled you to the finish line and held on to you tight, so I didn't let you slip out of my hand. Saved your life as a Commanders fan of not jumping off at the end of the year.
I never jumped off the bandwagon, man. I don't know. I don't know where this is coming from.
I think I got some people at the bar that might say I'm exaggerating a pinch, but there's also some validity to that one, Reg.
There's no validity to it whatsoever. But you know what? I am here because why would I come all the way this far just when things are about to change and hopefully for the positive decide to jump ship? See, your logic makes no sense, brother.
Yeah. And we'll get into some of the positives of the future that we're about to talk about, and I'll probably take up most of the show. But real quick, we'll talk very briefly about the last game, about who. That's right. The nasty Dallas Cowboys. It was worse than what I wanted the game to be, but at least the first quarter and a half, we were kind of making it interesting. It wasn't real pretty, but making it interesting, And I'm not going to say that I ever thought that we were going to lose. I'm sorry, that we were going to win. But we had a couple Cowboy fans around us, and even though it was midway through the second quarter, there was a little squirm. There was a little like, oh no, we're not going to repeat last year, are we?
I think you thought we were going to win.
Dude, I did.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh,
the way you was cheering and high fiving and eating chips and celebrating, I think you thought we were going to win.
I think you're not as good at exaggerating as your main man Ken over here. I was eating some chips, but I wasn't celebrating. I was enjoying the good plays, but yeah.
All I know is I had to keep reminding myself during the game that this is about the big picture, because I hate losing to the Cowboys, and I knew we were not going to win the game. So while I'm watching the game, and even though we had a little bit of success early and we kept the game close early, I just knew this was going to be short-lived. I was just ready to get the damn game over with, because I knew the game being over meant that we was hopefully put us in a position to secure the number 2 pick in the draft, and then we can move on and get started with the new era. So for me, I was never worried, but sitting there listening to Cowboy fans cheer against our backups as if this was a playoff game, it didn't sit well with me, but there was nothing I can do about it. I mean, we're sitting here playing backups, so
right.
Hey, whatever.
I mentioned.
Let me say this.
Go ahead.
But for all the Cowboy fans, all the Eagle fans, all the Giants fans, go ahead and get all that kikiing and cackling and all that noise talking out the way, because I'm telling you, with the way things are going to be changing, things about to get real different in DC. So you better get all that slick talk, all that fancy lip, slick tongue talking that you like to do. Get it all out now, because
I don't think the Eagles fans are doing that right now. Right.
Well, they feel good about this season, and look, they're better than we are, and we're not.
That's all they can say right now.
I understand, but this won't happen in 1 year.
No.
So they'll have more opportunities to kind of run their mouth, but get it all out now, because I'm telling you, we coming. As Prime would say, we coming.
Well, and you're talking about it, while we were at the game and we're at the bar, like I said, the majority of people around us were all Commanders fans, supporting the burgundy and gold. But there was, a couple Cowboy fans there. And, while we had no problem losing that game, hearing them cheer irritated me. Right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
They were cheering too hard.
Yeah. If Reggie cheered because not cheered, but he was, a little bit happy that the Cowboys took the lead, that didn't bother me at all. But when I heard a Cowboys fan doing the exact same thing, cheering for the exact same thing, Reggie and my other Commanders fans didn't bother me at all because I knew where their heart was. These Cowboy fans were doing the exact same thing, but it made me want to pick up a bottle of ketchup and throw it and hit them upside the head.
That's right. That's right. They were cheering a little too hard for me, but at any rate, man, we finally got that over with. Cowboys won. They won the little division. They go on and play. They're going to play Green Bay. They're going to host Green Bay. And the Green Bay has been a little bit of a kryptonite for the Cowboys. But, of course, that was during the Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers era. So we'll see how Jordan Love and those guys come down here and play them on
Get him, Jordan.
Saturday or Sunday, whatever they do. But anyway. But we got bigger and better news, Ken.
We do.
Bigger and better news. So unless you've been living on a rock, of course, we had the big news that everyone was expecting. It wasn't a shock to anyone. I think the only question was no matter when.
Right.
But the firing of Coach Ron Rivera.
We got a recording of that. Did you know that?
Oh my God. Do we?
You're gone. Fired. Out of here. Ain't nothing I can do for you.
Yeah, I never knew Josh Harris had a Southern accent, but that's exclusive content right there. Exclusive.
I'm gonna give you a womp 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 on that one. You got that?
Yes, I do. I got whatever you need here, Reg.
So, but at any rate, before we get into a little bit about Ron and kind of rehash a little bit about Ron's time here as a head coach, I want to personally say this to our listeners, to you, to our listeners, and I know Ron Rivera would never get this message, man. But what I have found is that social media, the great thing that social media is, it's a double-edged sword, and there are some ugly human beings on social media.
Yep. And
despite Ron Rivera, the coach of the Washington Commanders, not having the success that we all wanted, and it was time for a change. But to dump on this guy and to basically shit on him for all intents and purposes on the way out, to me, was completely unnecessary. So I just personally, because, if you say anything, what I'm about to say on social media, you get dogged for it. And I've posted things before and not care what people think. But there are times where you're like, you know what, I don't have the energy for the negativity, so you just don't post it. You maybe just like what people saying and stuff. And I'll say this, man. Ron Rivera's time in D.C., in my personal opinion, was categorized in two separate categories. There's the on the field Ron Rivera, and then there's the off the field Ron Rivera. And the on the field Ron Rivera is completely all on Ron, and that ultimately led to the reason why he was relieved of his duties. The off the field Ron is, by all intents and purposes, even if you listen to the players, was a stand-up human being, was a stand-up individual.
Right.
Ron took over a job that was a very, very unattractive job in the NFL. May have been probably the worst. No one wanted to come to D.C. No one wanted to come and work for Dan Snyder. No one wanted to constantly have to listen to answer questions about ownership and the off the field issues, because Dan Snyder was nowhere near. So Ron took a position, and you could easily say, well, he knew what he was getting into. But did he, though? Did he know he was going to have some challenges? Perhaps. But nonetheless, he still was willing to take the job. He did change the culture, in my personal opinion. We were no longer the laughing stock of the league that we used to be, because Ron, being a respected coach and a respected man, brought some respectability to our team. He came in during a COVID year, right? Ron fought cancer and beat it. He lost his mother during this time, right? And all the while having to be the face of a franchise that was draped in legal issues. And yet he was able to steer this ship in a direction to where we are today.
Right.
Where no one's talking back. Even without Josh Harris and his group, people were no longer talking about the embarrassment of the Washington Commanders. So Ron deserves a lot of credit for what he was able to do as the person off the field and how he handled his players. I listened to some interviews about some of the players talking about how what he did for them behind the scenes when they lost relatives, mothers, fathers during the past 4 years that he was here. Tressway even teared up about it. So that is the guy that I say that I wish well in the future. That's the guy that I wish luck to and hope the best for him from whatever he chooses to do going forward. But people want to say, oh, don't worry about Ron. He's a millionaire. Oh, don't worry about Ron. He'll be fine. He done made a ton of money. This isn't about the money. He is still a human being. His staff and everyone that's associated with that will potentially lose all of their jobs. Just because Ron is fine doesn't mean everybody on his staff is going to be fine. So this is a domino effect.
Right.
So again, I just personally wanted to say thank you to Ron Rivera for what he did over the last 4 years for our organization. I understand, by me saying that doesn't mean that I'm completely giving him a pass and ignoring the product on the field, because the product on the field is a results-oriented business, and the results were not there. And because of that, that is why ownership needed to make the change in the decision. But with the respect for Ron, I wish him all the best in whatever he chooses to do next, man.
Yeah, I can't agree with that more. I'll add it. I'll do a shorter version of that since you covered a lot of it. I think Ron Rivera is a hell of a man. He's a hell of a leader. Unfortunately, I guess whether you want to call it coaching or talent evaluation, he's very average. But that doesn't take away from somebody as a person. I think from a character perspective and leader perspective, every team should have somebody like Ron. And I think Ron brought some of those people in. You look at the culture, and I understand culture only goes so far, right? But look at the last 3 or 4 years compared to the previous 10 years of how many off the field problems there was, right? I'm not talking front office. I'm talking about with the players, with the coaches, with everything going on. It was almost non-existent. If it was, it was small. People were cut. Quality players making quality life choices when they go to the club, when they're in the off season, when they're doing these things. Minimal. I'd have to think for a while of what there was from another player that got in any kind of issues or troubles. But before there was as many issues off the field as there were on the field, right? And we haven't had to talk to that. Whether Ron told him you're going to be cut immediately if anything happens like that, or just his leadership, the people he brought in of good character, I don't know. But I'm hoping that what Ron put in place from a character, from how an organization is run, continues on.
Yeah.
Yes, we need better coaching. We need better talent.
We need better results. We need better results.
But yes, I hope what he's set in place carries on for an extended amount of time, like it was with when Joe Gibbs was here, right? Joe Gibbs' tenure, you had very little off the field problems, and you were winning. I hope that continues throughout the future here for the Washington Commanders.
Agreed.
But with that being said, Josh Harris, he bought the team to be successful, and he said from day one that the expectations not only are high for him, but he recognizes 100% and stands with the fans from the point that the fans and himself are in it to win it, right? Magic Johnson said, "I'm not investing just as a business. I invest to win," right? And that's the approach that we want. Not that Ron Rivera wasn't that, but it goes from the top down, and we can talk about some of the things that Josh Harris has done and said over the last 24 hours, and even previous prior to him, prior to today with the firing of Ron. Of everything that he has said has kind of led to this moment, and it's not just talk. I think it's something that he's focused on to put in place for our success.
Okay. So you can start with the press conference today, right? First of all, with the change, it's going to start with Josh Harris is I forgot what he called it, but it's basically a search committee, if you will, where they are looking for a head coach and someone who's going to be head of football operations. But what got everyone talking was Josh Harris recognizing that he wants to do this right and try to find the best candidate. Went out and solicited the assistance of former GM in Detroit. I think it's Rick Spielman.
Yes.
Always get Rick and the other Spielman,
Spielman
mixed up. But it's Rick Spielman, and I think the other guy's his brother, if I'm not mistaken. And then he solicited the assistance of Bob Myers. Bob Myers is from the NBA world, and he was the architect of the team, building the team with the Golden State Warriors, and that was in charge of the 4 championships that they've won here over the past few years. So he has hired those two to help in his search to hire a head of football operations and a head coach. Now, I don't know exactly, because no one asked him how this is going to work. Typically, you would hire your GM and then let the GM find a head coach, but they are doing what seems to be, or an assumption, I guess, a simultaneously searching for both positions, which is a little bit odd to me. Also, they're calling this a head of football operations, which is not the GM title. And the way I understood it is this person will have GM responsibilities and some other duty. So it concerns me a little bit. Okay. Right. But at this point, I'm giving Josh and his group a clean slate until they do something different to change my mind. I'm going to roll with whatever they're doing. They talked about having an out of the box type of approach to this, and hiring Bob Myers from the NBA and having Spielman to come in who's got football knowledge to help them in the search and find this individual or individuals. Hey man, I'm all for it. He was asked about how long he would think it would take to rebuild, but also find these people. And he was steadfast in his approach when he said that we're going to be thorough. He used the word thorough many times, but specifically he says that they're going to run a thorough but a rapid process. So he's not going to rush it, because he said we can do this quickly and not have the long-term success that we want. I want to build a perennial playoff contender to try to win championships. And so with that, I'm all for it. He went on to talk about whatever they do, they have to do it fast, though. He says, because there's a lot of things coming up. And he was mindful of the fact that the end of the season is near, calendar year that is, and how we got the combine and the free agents and player visits and the draft and all the things that are getting ready to come up that you have to build for next year. So they need to hurry up and get some people in place. So I was excited to hear that approach.
Yeah, but he did say that for him finding the head of football operations was where he was looking at first, right? They're trying to get that in place, but I don't know that they're. Let me back up. I don't know that they're directly looking to fill the coaching spot first. What I think that they're doing is reaching out to coaches to have conversations with. So and that's how I'm kind of reading the tea leaves is they're going to talk to a bunch of people, start getting permissions, whether it's fill in the blank for any big names that are out there, right? Is it Raheem Morris is one of the names that have been out there. Harbaugh is the other name. First two names kind of quickly out there, but I think they're going to get
the defensive coordinator for the Ravens. They've asked permission to speak to both coordinators for Detroit, the offensive coordinator Ben Johnson and the defensive coordinator Aaron Glenn. Mm-hmm. I think they asked for some guy down in Miami, if I'm not mistaken.
Probably offensive coordinator. Yep.
But and then there's a ton of GMs that they've also reached out. Right. The one that got me excited the most was the assistant GM in San Francisco. And then there's the guy that's in Philadelphia. If I had to pick, I mean, and let me be the first to say, I don't know a whole lot about many of these head coaches candidates and many of these head of football operation or these guys that are in assistant GM roles right now. Listen, man, I don't know much about what they're doing other than the fact that they're associated with teams that have had success. But the two people in terms of GMs, in terms of Philadelphia and San Francisco, the reason I like those guys the most because they have been able to sit and watch Jeff Lurie and I cannot think of the GM that's in Philadelphia right now. But him and then of course John Lynch and those guys out in San Francisco, those two people have been able to sit back and watch how you build and transition teams into be a perennial playoff team. So right. I like that. Doesn't mean that any of the other guys won't have success or can't do the job. It's just that those two excite me the most because they've been on some organizations that have seen it done.
Yeah, and look, I don't care what GM and what coach comes in. I want them to be successful. All right, let me lay that out. What I like about from a coaching perspective, we see time and time again. Yes, there are exceptions, right, to what I'm about to say, but time and time again, it's the younger, up and coming head coach that succeeds. Right? He doesn't have 50 years of football that he's entrenched in and not wavering, right? The young quarterback is always, I say quarterback, the young coach is looking for something new, a new way of doing it, a new perspective. The drive is there, the fire is there. He has no problem putting in 20-hour days to where the coach that's been around forever, he's still putting in a lot of time, but they're not putting in nearly the time and the drive and the desire typically. And what the younger coaches tend to be more creative, right? The new offenses that come about are from the younger coaches, keeping up with the times, those types of things that push the league into change are normally done by the younger coaches. So that is something I would like to see in Washington, right? All the coaches that have passed through that are now coaches somewhere else, you see that on their teams, right? You see that in San Francisco. You see that with the Rams, some of the things that they do, and even up in Green Bay. So we will see what happens with that.
Yeah. So here's looking at you, Bill Belichick. Don't come to DC, brother. Don't come to DC.
And not the Bills would be bad, but how long is he going to be here, right? Bill's not going to be here for another 10 years. Let's just say he's successful. let's just say he's successful. He's still not going to be here 10 years. You get the next Shanahan quality coach. I'm not trying to say he's going to take you to the Super Bowl in a couple of years, but you get the next Shanahan, McVay quality coach, and be here and be stable for 8 to 10 years. That does wonders for an organization.
Absolutely. And it doesn't matter. I'm still not interested in Bill Belichick. Not even really interested in Raheem Morris. It's just not.
Yeah.
Give me something new, different. And I'm cool with it. But nonetheless, Josh Harris seems to be laying the foundation for how I would like them to be handling this approach. He was asked about the rebrand, and in a very sarcastic manner, and at least the way I took it, he told the reporter, he says, "We're kind of busy right now."
Yeah, right.
kind of busy doing other things right now. And he went on to talk about, the things they want to do with the new stadium, everything that needs to be done to improve the fan experience at the current stadium.
Yep.
And how they're working to try to find a new home, which is the new stadium. And then there's a lot of other personnel decisions that needs to take place. And so he talked about that being not their number one priority. This is just me personally talking. I've shared this with you and some of the folks here at the bar. Josh, if you're not going to do the rebrand, I wish they would just shut it down. Right. When you sit here and just say, well, it's on the table or it's not a priority right now, you keep the talk going. One part of me feels like, well, if people don't know it's a rebrand, they continue to buy this product. Well, I did the complete opposite. I stopped buying merch, because if you're going to change the name, I'm not going to continue to spend money on Washington Commanders. So, Josh, if you
right.
have no interest in doing it, then just say we're not going to rebrand, folks. This is what it is, and we will continue to change some things, but we're going to continue to be the Commanders in a discussion, and people will either move on or get on board. But if you're going to change it, then just say that. Just say, hey, it's something that's on the table, and we will look into it and most likely do a rebrand down the road. But what it is they don't want to lose the money on the current merch, because if they do a rebrand, it's 3 years down the road, perhaps, or maybe whenever they do the stadium. Where in the meantime, they don't want to miss out on selling merch, because rebrand and rename it is a low priority.
Right.
But the longer they choose not to shut it down, it just continues to go and go and go. And you got the people who hate the name Commanders. You got the people who want to be called Hogs and Wolves. And then you got the stupid people that want to continue to go back to being Redskins. We're not going to be Redskins anymore.
Yeah.
It's like, just shut up about it. We're not going back to be, even if they change the name, we're not going to be Redskins.
Right. That is not an option.
Not an option. It's just not going to be a damn option. So, but I just wish that the ownership would come down and just, if you're not going to change it, shut it down. But the fact that they choose not to shut it down makes me wonder if this is on the table as a legitimate opportunity here. And with it, I'm not buying a lot of that stuff anymore. I mean, I knew football team was going to be temporary. I knew that was temporary, and I bought a few things just to kind of have, because we were no longer the Redskins. But I didn't buy a whole lot of football team stuff because I knew it'd be a new name.
Right.
But once they went to Commanders and I kind of had to get used to it, I started buying stuff. But damn it, if you're going to change the name again, I'm not buying any more Commander stuff, okay?
Yeah, I don't think, again, until I see something that makes me think otherwise, I do not think we're going to be changing the name Commanders. I do think, and I want to stick with it, I do think in a year or two, we're going to update our logo. And I'll go back, just like when we were the Redskins, you had the Indian head on the side of the helmet, but you also had the R, right? You use the R here and there. We'll use the W that we currently have, like we used the R as a secondary logo. It is as an old school logo, how we use it, but we're going to have a new logo for the Commanders. That's my belief. That's my reading through the tea leaves. And go to Vegas and lay some money down on it. You'll walk away like you just invested in Amazon 20 years ago. But yes, he did talk about the stadium improvements. Anybody that's been to FedEx or just read the papers about FedEx knows that, it's it's not anybody. It's not a place people go to enjoy the stadium. You're going to see your team, whether you're an away team or whether you're a home team. You're going to see the team. There's nothing about the stadium that you want to see, or you walk in there and go, man, this is a cool place. But they are going to be making some improvements to that. And from where they sit right now, everything that I hear is they're at least 6 years away from a new stadium. By the time things get approved and all your permits and it gets built and yada yada yada, you're talking at least 6 years. So that's why they're putting the money in the FedEx to keep it going. 6 years, yeah. And another thing on their table is supposedly the facilities at Redskins Park, Commanders Park, Washington Park, whatever you want to call it. The practice facilities are from 1987, and they've made minimal updates and changes. They are that needs basically ideally they would have a tear everything down and build back up and have a nice new training facility. It is not a modern, up-to-date training facility by NFL standards at all.
Well, I think they're going to do that once they know where the stadium is going to be built. I think that's. I don't know that they're just going to leave the training corporate facilities where it is now, from what I had heard. But that doesn't really affect me.
Right.
But it's on the table, and I know it's something that they're going to do. If you're a player that's going to be a Washington Commander down the road, man, you're going to eventually walk into a brand new stadium, brand new training facility, all of the nice new amenities. It is very evident that Dan Snyder at some point stopped reinvesting money into the facilities, and that's why the stadium is what it is, and that's why the training facility is what it is. But Josh Harris is, again, this is the clock starts today for Josh Harris. I mean, right. I understand they took over the team last year, but it was roughly a month, or maybe even a few weeks before training camp opened, so there wasn't a whole lot that they could do. Right. He talked about how he told Ron and everyone that he would give them a year, and he did that. He said it was important for him to keep his word to Ron and everyone, that even the fans, that they would give this a year, and they did that. And that was for the people that was whining and crying about firing Ron Rivera. It's like he said he didn't see any, even in his other organizations, he's never seen where removing a coach in the middle of the season doesn't typically yield great results, is right. What he said. And so there was no need for him to fire Ron Rivera. So,
yeah,
but I'm happy. I'm happy about it, though, man. I'm happy about the change. As I've kind of said to you, I'm excited about the offseason. With the changes, we were wondering what was going to be different under Josh Harris. We know we're going to get some key competent people here. This is a destination. I saw just the other day, they said Washington is even a better destination than the Chargers. And the Chargers are now in California with the new stadium and a quote unquote franchise quarterback.
Right.
But they're saying Washington is a better destination. And I believe that. And I believe having the number 2 pick in the draft, the amount of cap space, there's some good players in some key positions, and ownership. I go back to it again. It's ownership, and I think the people that will be in place and the reaches that they have into other circles, meaning agents and players, people will come to Washington, and I believe it. And that's what makes me excited about this whole deal.
Yeah, I think when we look back at, as of today, to your point, Josh Harris really hasn't done anything for the team at this point. The only thing that I was thinking about this earlier, that other than saying the right things and doing some small things, the only thing that Josh Harris has done was, my guess is he probably pushed for Montez and Chase to be traded since they weren't working out a deal, and to get something for it now. Right. So the second round pick, the extra second round pick that we have in the second round, and the pick we have in the third round, it is potentially, some of the first things that that Josh Harris and the ownership pushed to have taken place. And to your point, you said it, today basically starts truly the first full year of Josh Harris and his impact, right? Impact number one, he's doing, he's changing over the staff. They're in place as of right now. Washington has the highest salary cap available for 2024 at $78 million, $78.8 million. We talked about they've got 5 of the top 100 draft picks. So between salary cap, bringing in free agents, your draft picks that you have, and the talent that is here, right? I think there's some big gaps here, but there's also some talent here. You take all those things along with getting quality GM, quality coaches. I think they're going to look back, and Josh Harris, when we watch Sports Center and things like this in another season or two, they're going to be talking about Josh Harris and the turnaround that Washington has done, the remarkable turnaround in the last year or two. And we're making a push to the playoffs, making a push at a competitive team, and the future will look bright.
That's right. So Eagles, Cowboys, Giants, get all that slick talk out now. I'm telling you, get it all out now. I'm gonna take it. I'm gonna take it. I got some friends too. Just keep on with it. Get it all out now, because I'm coming. I'm coming.
Oh yeah, it's coming back around. It's coming back around for sure.
Damn right. Damn right.
Like I said, I think we'll start. We're going to continue like we have been in the off season. We're going to continue to have regular podcasts. Obviously, as big news, whether it's the GM, whether it's the head coach, hirings and firings, we'll be talking about it throughout the season. As they do that, before you know it, it's free agent time. We're in the new season. I think free agency is mid-March, if I remember right. With the draft being in late April. So, over the next couple months, there's going to be a lot of changes in Washington, right? Ownership
change, be in the news.
Coach is going to change, GM is going to change, a whole lot of players are going to be signed, a whole lot of players are going to be cut, maybe some surprises, as well as the youngest players coming in through the draft. So stick around with the knuckleheads, and we're gonna have a lot of talk, a lot of discussion as we continue to root for the burgundy and gold.
Yes, so we will be in the news, and we will continue to bring it to you and give you our thoughts and opinions on it, y'all. So we appreciate everybody tuning in, listening to us, supporting us, giving us feedback, and all that good stuff. So, new era in Washington, D.C. Keith, what's going on over there?
I don't know, man. What is going on around here?
All right, y'all.
Until next time.
Peace out.
Peace out, knuckleheads.